Welcome to the Partytrick podcast, where we inspire and empower you to elevate every day. Today, I'm chatting with Sarah Allen Preston, the founder of the Afloat App. Similar to me, our background started in the event world, and we love good connection. So tune in, learn more about her amazing app, connection, party fails, hostess gifting, and all the journeys in between. See you soon. I am so thrilled to chat with Sarah Allen Preston and talk a little bit about events and gifting and single mom life. So let's do this. Let's kick it off. Sarah Allen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun. I'm so excited to get to chat.
I am too. So we were introduced through a mutual friend. We had both heard about each other in various ways. There's a lot of commonalities. And when we first hopped on the phone a while ago and kind of started chatting, it was like, wait, weddings, event planning, single mom, kids. And it's just kind of funny how life has you circle people and then all of a sudden, like the ability to connect happens. So I'm so grateful we've crossed paths.
I know it's so funny. I really do feel like we had these rather parallel lives happening in different areas of the country. So funny how that happens.
So crazy. So tell us a little bit, because I obviously know some of this now, but I would love for you to share kind of some of your history in a way, just from like college to Paris to starting Preston Paper and on, and then obviously like up to where you are with Afloat today.
Yeah. So it's really funny. I had a party 2 nights ago here. I'm in Dallas and we were at Alice and Olivia. And this woman asked me and she was like, "Oh, were you a marketing major?" I was talking about Afloat, our gifting app that I'm working on now. And I was like, "No, I was actually an art history major, but there's not a lot to do with that." So here I am in tech, but I went to SMU. I graduated there. And while I think I was a senior, I interned at a magazine that's in Texas called Paper City. And
Yeah.
it's awesome. I was a completely embarrassing, horrible intern, like literally the worst. I,
Oh my
I still
God.
actually am friends with the woman that was the editor at the time.
How funny.
And yeah, it's been such a small world. We've kind of gotten back in touch now that I'm here again, but she laughs now. She will fully call me out and be like, "Yeah, you were the worst." But I made everyone
Well, now
Christmas
you've
gifts.
redeemed yourself. I think we've
I
all had those really
have.
horrifying intern experiences. Yeah. Mhm.
I know that classic like intern Twitter thread. Like I would have been all over that and been
Oh, yeah.
posted like every day. I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing ever. But I did make them all Christmas gifts to redeem myself. And Brooke is her name, was like, "Oh my God, Sarah Ellen, okay, go home. First of all, you're done here. But this is cool. And so we're going to write an article about it and go make a website and come back and we'll publish you in the spring or whatever." And so I did that and it really launched this first entrepreneurial endeavor. It was a stationery company called Preston Paper. So I worked on that
Yeah.
in Dallas until I graduated. Then and I was all custom drawn stationery. So, Brooke in her ball gown with her cowboy boots and her dog and her husband and whatever.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it's like
Now that
Etsy
was.
everywhere. But
Mhm.
back in the day, it was like such a novelty, right? So I did that. And then after I graduated, I took it into a wholesale line. So we sold to stores all across the country. And I ended up moving back to Kansas City, where I'm from.
Okay.
I think I was like 26. And I don't know why I don't know that, but I think I was like 26. And I then got engaged
Nice.
to my now ex-husband.
Mhm.
But while I
A
was
similar
planning our
time for both of
wedding,
us on that as well. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's so funny. So while I was planning our wedding, I ended up getting a ton of requests to go kind of back into custom design. And after I had my wedding, we were published on Style Me Pretty, which at the time, it probably still is a big deal, but it was a big thing. And so that kind of just jumped me back from this wholesale line where I'd taken Preston Paper back into custom
Yeah.
design. So that was my evolution pre-Afloat. And then the event design ended up I just kept taking on more responsibility because I just was kind of type A like that. And I just kept adding and adding and adding until all of a sudden I was a full scale design production planning company.
But don't you love how that like this it's a like scope creep essentially, right? Like it's like, okay, we start with this and then it just pushed a little bit further. And I think so much of the time that happens in the event industry. I have a stationer friend who is like the most amazing designer ever. And she starts just with stationery, right? And then she really came down to let me curate the gifting, let me curate the look of the escort cards, let me curate and I'm like, all right, great, run with it. Cause she is next level the last event I did with her was summer of 21. It was like a $3 million insane over the top wedding.
Oh my
It's like,
god, so fun.
but
So
it's
fun to
funny
be
because you're like,
creative
oh,
with that budget.
yeah, right. And that's one of those things where you're like, okay, how does the stationer end up ultimately like she designed almost everything towards the end. It was phenomenal. So, okay. Yes.
That
Scope
was
creep
me, and then
happened
I
to
just
you.
decided to yeah, I hit
Yeah.
scope creep to the max, and then I am, like I said, kind of type A, Virgo first child. I just decided to take it all on my shoulders and monetize it, and
Yep.
went into my event planning business that way. So it really was. I mean, I looking back on it, it seems like it makes so much sense, but it was not a plan by any means. Just ended up there.
Yeah. It's kind of like going on the river and just like bumping off the rocks on either side until ultimately you end up somewhere where you never thought you were going to go. I mean, that was a really weird way to say that. But yeah, you look back sometimes and you're like, oh, this does make sense how I got here, but that was not my intention.
Totally, totally, totally.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, you have 3 boys, right? How old are they?
They are 9, 7, and almost 6.
Okay.
So it is a animal house at my house.
Yeah. And ours are again similar in age. Mine are 6 and 8 at the moment. How did you juggle kind of events when you were doing events, pre-afloat and stuff? How did you juggle the events with the boys? How was that? And did that kind of in a way, I mean, obviously 2020 things shifted, but that shift kind of the trajectory some or no?
It really didn't. I would say once I had my 3rd, maybe the seed was kind of planted that I couldn't take on. For me, it was more the emotional kind of toll of events, right? Like,
Oh,
I'm
completely.
clearly not good at saying no. I kept piling stuff on my shoulders. I was like basically living in my clients' guest rooms, like doing everything for them for a year. Like, and so I think that though at the beginning, and I was pretty careful to take on only, a certain number a year, as I'm sure you're the same. When you have these bigger
Yep.
budgets, you can be a little more selective. Um, so I really tried to work it around, like, definitely keeping being a mom in my life as well. Like, I still had a play group I went to every Thursday with my girlfriends. I hired people that were kind of actually in my same phase of life and could pick up my slack really easily because they understood, like, we're working on the fly. I actually think there was a lot I learned juggling especially the 2 boys. Like I said, once I had
Yeah.
3, I'll tell you a little bit about my son's heart surgery too, but that was a little bit of a game changer. But definitely with 2, it was, and I guess boss, my 3rd as well. And I had like a year in there where I was still doing events. It was a great preview to what we're doing now, startup life, like
Mhm.
wearing all the hats, but still giving your all to everything. You're running 5 different highways all at one time. And I think that there were a lot of lessons I probably picked up. We're super agile. I think women are very agile and flexible and able to be not only resilient in like an internal way, but in terms of like, this isn't going well. I'm putting out this fire, but I'm doing this. And that is event planning in a nutshell, but also motherhood. So I do think I don't know if I did it well, but I definitely tried to master like the mindset and skills needed. I'm sure I was like so cranky some days, but
I think we
to
all are
keep
some days.
all of the
Yeah.
highways flowing at the right speed, the same direction. So it was a lot of at the time, it wasn't a village as much because I was at that point taking on probably more than I should have in
Yeah.
retrospect,
Mhm.
but I had a great assistant and yeah, just learning to juggle was the name of the
Yeah.
game.
I would say, I mean, in my experience with that, when I planning and managing like my business, with Blue River Productions prior to starting Partytrick, my biggest year was when my babies were really little and I was juggling
Mhm.
so much. I had like 13 employees. You're managing as like 20 plus vendors per wedding, little kids at home. I think that one of the things I love about this phase right now, I am able to bring so much more magic to my everyday. Whereas when I was bringing magic to everyone else's and managing the chaos, phenomenal for like organizational skills, but it was hard to bring the magic and celebrate the everyday in the same way that we do. So, but it was amazing training for where we are now in terms of being able to wear every single hat in startup life. Okay. So tell
That
me,
is so
that's
well said. Like that, you just absolutely nailed it. That is yes, 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 yes.
thank you. Yeah, it's literally it's like you have to wear every single hat, manage everything, and then yeah, but you don't get to celebrate. You don't get to enjoy. And
No,
then life is
yeah.
about those connections and those memories. And I felt like it was an amazing chapter and I got to make it for others, but I want to make it for myself. Right. And I want to keep it
Mhm.
alive for myself now too. Okay. A little bit about parties. Then I want to jump into afloat stuff because I'm so excited to have you share more because I love it. Okay. In terms of just like, and because party trick, what is your favorite kind of party trick?
This is my new thing, and it is a little bit of a teaser for Afloat, but I love to afloat myself all of my necessities for my party. So I can get my charcuterie, I can get my balloons, my florals, my hostess gifts, or my thank you gifts, or whatever I need. I'm still able to support local. It's still up to my standards and quality of the kind of gifts or the kind of entertaining I want to do, but it all comes delivered to my doorstep. I can do it from my office. I can do it from the carpool line.
I love it.
I'm not, running around frazzled trying to keep up the kind of person I want to be in my heart, which is someone that's going to go to the local florist and get something amazing for the table and still be able to be working and on the go and in mom mode and whatever else, or laying in my bed at 1 a.m. when I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this. And I'm having people over tomorrow night and the schedule just won't allow for me to bop around and get the cutest plates and napkins and everything. So that is my newest party trick. Is
I
that
love that. No, that's
shameless
great.
plug, but
I
I
think
really do it.
no, truly, I think that's like the best. Okay, last one about party and the question. I also know that you love a good theme, and I love a good theme. But tell me, like, what's your and I know why I do. Why do you like having a theme? And then give me like two or three of your favorites.
Okay, so I think it's like the creative brain thing. Like once I start to see something, I see that end picture so very clearly, and I want every detail aligned and marching towards that vision that's in my head. And a
Hmm.
theme, I think, really puts nice guardrails around that. So
So too.
one
Yes.
of my favorite ones that I did is actually was for my ex-husband's, I think it was his 40th birthday. He was a big, I don't know, big 90s kid, which now it's like so all the rage again. So we should
Yeah.
have had this party this year. But at the time, it was like totally crazy. We sent out invitations on floppy disks. We had like
Love it.
vodka like injected in Capri Suns being passed. We had all of these like red solo cups, like with his birthday printed on it. Everyone came in full 90s gear. We had like the high school party vibes, right? Like a beer bong. We had
Oh
90s
yeah.
rap playing. Like it was just this, and everyone was like back in their element, back in their heyday. So I think the combination of a theme that was super fun to like riff on and take to the absolute max, and then getting people in that right energy of like, everyone wants to have fun with this. It was a killer party, super fun theme. So
Oh my
90s,
god,
if
I love
anybody's
that. We
looking
need to
for a
write a
party
party
theme,
around
I
it.
recommend. Yeah.
I'm 100% gonna pick your brain and pull some of those out. Like invites on a floppy disk, how amazing. First of all, how did you find them? I'm very curious where you find them these
Right. I
days.
don't even
But
remember. It took me like 10 hours, I think, to find them on the internet. I was like peeling through websites for literally like 3 nights. But I finally found them.
well, if we put one on Party Trick, we'll shortcut it for everyone and make it easier because but we'll do that heavy. I mean, actually, I'll probably just call you and find out where. But anyhow,
There.
okay. So tell me about this pivot and switch, and not even pivot, but evolution. And tell me about Afloat and why and how it came to be. And yeah, give us all the deets.
Yeah. So it's really funny. I had obviously been, as you were, a professional celebrator of relationships. I loved doing it for all my clients. I loved it so much. I love making the magic that I felt like, okay, checking all my boxes, I've got this down. Then my third son was born and he had to have open heart surgery when he was only
Mhm.
5 months old. It was insane. We didn't realize when he was in utero, he wasn't diagnosed. So he was born and we went back and forth to the hospital, I think like a dozen times in the first few weeks of his life because we could not get him diagnosed. So as a mom, it was insanely frustrating. I'd leave every day being like, this baby's still broken. I do not know how to communicate with you people. Like there's something wrong. And I'd go back the next day and my at the time husband was like, okay, you're sounding crazy. Like you can stop. And I was like, I absolutely will not. I would
Yeah.
find the smallest thing wrong with them. I'm like, we got to go back to the hospital. So finally, we had this NICU nurse who was actually a traveling nurse in our pediatrician's office. And she was like, I think I hear a pretty significant heart murmur. And she sent us to our children's hospital where I'd been to the ER, but she ordered these specific tests and they found very quickly that he had a series of holes all down the center wall of his heart. It's called
Wow.
AVSD.
Mhm.
And yeah, and they were numerous enough and large enough that he was basically breathing like 100 breaths a second. I still have these videos of him just wheezing his head off. That was his kind of state of being.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I had 2 other kids at home, right? So I knew this wasn't normal, but I was an art history major. I didn't know what I was talking about.
I get
Like,
that. Mhm.
yeah. So finally we were diagnosed and they basically like just you're inpatient for a few days with tests and they say go home and it's all this medication and you just watch them like a hawk until they get big enough to have surgery, but not too big that they start to go into heart failure and you can't obviously reverse it. So it's like walking on a tightrope for
Yeah.
20 weeks. If you can make it that far, ideally, you want to make it to 5 or 6 months and they
Yeah.
monitor him closely. But if they can get big enough, the surgery is more successful. So that's where you want to get them. So anyway, he had surgery. We were at the time living in a rental house. Our house had flooded. I had him while we were in the rental house. We moved when I was 9 months pregnant. We got him diagnosed. We're, keeping him alive. We're keeping our other 2 kids life on the rails. I'm planning
Yeah.
events. My marriage was a challenge at the time. And the funny thing is that we got him through surgery. He's fine. He's the one that's almost 6 now. He's
Yeah.
a freaking spark plug. Love him to death. But we got through surgery and I did not remember any of those bad things I just listed off. The only thing I took away from the whole experience was how amazing our community was.
I
They
love
showed up
that.
so big. Right? Like, and that's, you saw it too. I'm sure we saw it in weddings all the time. It was the people coming together to celebrate. And now flip the switch. I'm on the supportive side. I'm getting supported by people.
Which is very
And that
rare and
was
hard for us to do, and then amazing when it happens. Yeah.
Yes, and I was to the point where I literally had to let other people help me. Like, I probably would have gone kicking and screaming if one of those other aspects hadn't been present in my life, but because it was like a
Mhm.
combination of these, like, things happening, I was like, "I'm done. Just help me." And they did, and it was calls and texts and, "Let's go on a walk," and a lot of times it was a gift on the doorstep.
Well,
And it didn't matter how big or how small that thing was. When I'd come home from a long day at the hospital or a day planning or with being with my other kids,
yeah.
and I saw whatever it was. It could be a bottle of homemade salad dressing. It could be a Barefoot Dreams blanket. Both of those things were gifted to me, by the way, and they're very memorable.
Uh-huh.
So shout out to my gifters that sent me those. It would it would just totally change the trajectory of my day. And
Yeah.
I wanted to bottle that feeling of being connected, being cared for, being that moment of positivity that someone put in my day allowed me to go out in the world and be a more positive person for other people. And I was like, this is it, right? Like, I want to bottle and amplify this feeling of connection through tech because it is, to me, I've now seen on the happy times and on the hard times, the most important thing in life.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Oh my goodness. What a story, number one. Two, how amazing that your community rallied and how it's inspired and shifted kind of your trajectory. And I mean, it just like gives me goosebumps thinking about also just this feelings as a mom, what that must have been like and what that chapter and how much more in those heightened states of emotion that community, when it actually came, like how that must have impacted you and how lucky are we all now that it did in a way. And I'm obviously beyond thrilled that he's fine. So yeah.
and it's really funny too because I say that, and then it happened to me again when I got divorced a couple years later,
Yeah.
and that's when I actually went and launched the product. That I will say, post surgery, it planted this spark of like, what do I want to do? I want to do something. And then a year and a half later, I was going through a divorce, and I found myself again being the recipient of all the support. And I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, Sarah, now's
Now
the
it's your turn to
time.
give back. Yeah.
It is,
And
right?
create for others in that
Um,
way.
Yes. And but we all go through it, right? It doesn't have to be a divorce or an open heart surgery. It can be somebody just had a hard day. Somebody lost their job. Somebody lost a pet, a parent. There is no one that escapes life without needing the connection and support of other people at some point.
No, it's
It,
bruises left, right, and center, and we all
yeah.
need it. We all need that support so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the we call them silver lining moments. They're the ones you don't want to go through, but you can look back and hopefully see there was some good being brought to the situation, usually
Yeah.
by people around you that love you. And I love this platform we built. It's a marketplace. It brings
Okay.
all
Yes.
these
Tell
local
us,
stores
like,
together.
how would you
Yeah.
describe? Tell me, like, give me how do you describe Afloat that way?
Afloat is a local gifting marketplace. So we aggregate the best of the best local stores. And we have an app, and you go on. Right now, we're live in Dallas and Kansas City. We're
Yeah.
launching our mobile web and many more markets later this year. So stay tuned.
Mm.
But right now, you go on and you can shop a curated selection of amazing gifts from these stores, and you pick something, you type in what you want the note to be, everything gets wrapped the handwritten note, and delivered to their doorstep same day.
That's me.
Yeah.
Like,
So local
we need it
local
here.
gifting on demand is that, yes, and we will be
Yes.
soon. We're super excited. Like I said, it's been a year of really digging in and learning so much. And now we have our plans to begin to scale and open new markets. And it's been really as a roller coaster, but super gratifying because we have our mission that not only I believe in, but every single woman that's on our team has rallied behind or been the recipient of. And so it's become like such a gift. No pun intended. Oh my God, I need to think of this language. But it is a gift to build it. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that, kind of quick hits, it's local gifting on demand.
Yeah.
But we really do try to stand for a lot more than that in our brand and our ethos, and really getting to loop in these local stores that we are such advocates of. They're so creative. They're amazing curators. And so bringing more awareness and attention and gifting uh,
Mhm.
business to them has been a real treat as well.
I love it. I love that. How do you identify? I'm so curious because now, obviously, selfishly, I want it either here in Aspen or in Denver. Obviously, Denver's a bigger market. How do you identify the market? Is it like where so it's an easier spread? Is it network based or is it based? Like, I'm so curious. Just, yeah.
Yeah. So we actually will be able to sustain organic growth this fall, which is great. So if you're in a store in Aspen and you're like, oh my God, I have to be on Afloat, though coincidentally, we are going to do a pop up there. But
Oh, we have to talk about that. I
our
didn't,
I
yes.
know, I know. Let's
Okay.
talk about that
Yeah.
after this. But if you were, say you're in Aspen and you're like, oh my God, I've heard of this. I want to get on. You can go on our website, you can apply, and your store could get popped up and you could be plugged into our network now.
Got
Or
it.
I say now, as soon as we launch this
That's,
next
yeah.
phase. But we are also still really, because we are a very connection and community based brand, we are rolling out intentionally market by market because we love to get to know our users. We love to get to know our stores. We want to plan events and be really present in the communities that we're representing,
I love it.
bringing connection. Like that is what we're all about, right? We empower relationships between people. We empower relationships in the community. It is all about being real and authentic and present. Another
Yeah.
fun. But I will stop. But anyway, so we, after this, you will be able to be kind of anywhere using it, which is great. Or if
Yes.
I want to send you a gift and there is a store in Aspen, amazing. I can just do that right here from Dallas. But in terms of this more strategic, like present rollout, we're going to do Texas first. Yeah, really kind of network based, like where
Totally.
we see our biggest interest coming from. A lot of that, obviously, we're in Texas, so it's in Texas, but we do have Denver on our radar. We have a lot of cities throughout the Southeast and Southern
Makes sense. Yeah.
California. So yeah, so
Totally.
we're just kind of keeping an eye on the inbound that we get, and we'll be rolling out there while we kind of pop up everywhere.
I love it. I love it. I'm so excited for you and for all of the people who get to use Afloat. It's going to be amazing. So, okay, unrelated but not unrelated. Are you a big hostess gift person?
Yes, I am. I caveat, I used to not be. I was
Mhm.
like, because I didn't like people bringing me things I didn't need just because they
Totally.
felt compelled to. Like I
Hmm.
was like, whatever. But again, I think I love gifting because I love connection.
Hmm.
So I love it now, though I will say now that I have a float and I can send something, I usually send it ahead of time so it's not
Yep.
awkward to walk in with. It's like I genuinely want to connect with you and thank you for what you're doing. Or after the fact, if we've had an amazing evening and I'm like, oh my God, we blew through all of her cocktail napkins. I am going to send some others. I feel like it's just not that I grabbed a bottle of wine. And so that has, but before I wasn't going to go to a store and shop for something amazing and unique. I just didn't
Yeah.
have the time. But now that I have it right on my phone, it's super easy. It gets delivered to their doorstep and it's wrapped and it's so cute. I will fully send something ahead I know they'll love, or after the fact, send something that I've been like, oh my God, now we had this like
You got the
awesome
idea. Yeah.
joke or connection, or we had this great evening. But it's usually something that's not a bottle of wine, right? Like it's something where I'm like, this has personality, this has a little more meaning. So that is what I am into now. What about you? Are
I
you a
go
hostess
back
gift
and forth.
person?
I'm all over. I so it's funny. People who know me really well assume that gifting is one of my love languages, actually for receiving, which it's not.
Yeah.
But let me set the record straight. I love a great gift. But what it is I love the intentionality behind it. And
Yes.
so it not just being like, hey, great, this just showed up. Awesome. Like, thank
Mhm.
you. That's very kind of you. But at the same point, like, if there's intentionality and there's like thought behind it, it's in a way, and this sounds crazy, but it's an act of service because there's like the awareness, you see a hole, and whether that's a hole because there's actually the item doesn't exist, or you see a hole like emotionally in this physical item, which sounds really superficial, like that'll
No, it
fill.
doesn't. That is what I'm saying. I
Mm,
sometimes I feel silly telling our story, but I'm like, it wasn't the thing that was on my doorstep. The thing didn't matter. It was
yeah,
that someone was thinking about me.
completely,
That intentionality is like the gift
mm,
is just a physical representation of something that's so much bigger in my mind.
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so no, I love I love receiving, I love giving. I like giving after or the night of
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
again, I want it to be intentional. I hate like, oh, you have to do something. Like I'm sometimes really bad with this for like my mom's birthday, right? I don't have an idea. I don't have an idea. And then all of a sudden I have an idea and I will tell her, she knows that now that like it might not arrive on your birthdays. Like the idea might
Right.
come 2 days later, but I would rather have like the right thing that I know is gonna like hit and you know what? Yes, it's not like that's your immediate circle. Do the appropriate like etiquette forward gifting for others sometimes, but I think no, I think that there's always and I always keep like basically I think this is probably post kids. I have a big like dresser of storage that
Yeah.
has all the stuff. Like it's basically a gifting closet. It's like all the kids' stuff for the various parties. I have hostess gifts up the wazoo that are in there because also a lot of times like you're running late. And if you're in a market where Float doesn't exist yet,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
like, okay, how do
exactly.
I so yes, gotta love a good
No,
gift.
that is honestly, that is the pain point though, right? Like it's everybody wants to be thoughtful.
Yeah.
You gifting though, it just falls to the bottom of the priority list. And it shouldn't because it's so important. Establishing, maintaining, creating, nurturing connection is like so critical to us
Yeah.
as humans, right? So,
Completely.
and gifting is such a big part of that. It's centuries old. It is the gesture of like establishing that we're connected, that we have a relationship, and that's obviously kind of a big picture of hey, I just need a candle for a hostess gift. But I think that there's like it really it sounds, I don't know, to some people maybe like it sounds like both of us, the just empty gesture of a bottle of wine, you're kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But I also see the flip side where people like really just they know they want to do something and that's all you
Yeah.
can get to. So I love that the platform we've created has made the grab a bottle of wine, it's going to be like a thing of the past because you're able to support a local store to give something that is intentional and meaningful, creative.
Okay.
And I also want to say that, like, if somebody doesn't bring a gift to me, I am so not offended. Like,
Okay.
I think that that's a very important thing to set out there. Hostess gifts are amazing because it feels good to give something, but I don't think any hostesses should like
Judge
be
because you
personally
didn't get
affronted
one.
or offended. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
I
exactly.
totally get that.
That's going to be my one thing I will throw out there.
No,
Don't
I'm like
feel
right
like
there
you
with you.
have to. You're still a
Totally.
functional human. You can
Yeah.
give a host a gift.
You showed up. Your presence is the present.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yes,
I just
yes.
because truly, like, it's nice. It's always appreciated. I think there's that level of but the intentionality behind it is like obviously what's appreciated. I think I've never once had someone come not bring a hostess gift, and I've been like, what were they thinking? Don't they
Oh my
announce
God,
that
right? I probably
rude?
don't even notice, honestly.
I know.
But you
I
know what I
just
do love is
hmm,
the next day, if somebody drops something off the next day, I am like, oh my gosh, that
I
was
know.
so meaningful. That's when it really does kind of hit me. Like, you've slowed down, you've executed your party, you really feel like they had a good time and they're grateful. And there is a definite strengthening of a relationship when you have the time to digest, like, wow, like they brought something to me. Like I was just having fun entertaining them. Like that enough is like you said,
Yeah.
presence is your present.
Yeah.
It's really nice to kind of get that coming back at you the next day.
Totally. I also just like thinking back on this, and I haven't thought about this in a while. I look back and I never thought about that wasn't a nice enough gift, or it wasn't. And I've thought about that
Yeah.
as the giver, where I'm like, wait, is this good enough? Like, is this an? Do
Mhm.
they think it's gonna be a nice enough bottle of like wine? Do I need to bring? I actually spoke with a college friend about this last weekend. I was in New York last week, and I saw her. She lived right next door to me my sophomore year of college, and we were talking about hostess gifts. And she was like, Virginia, do you think this is like normal or excessive? And someone had come over. dropped off like a bottle of wine, a hoodie, and something else. And she's like, it was like a barbecue. Like, I kind of think it's excessive, but you know what? Everyone like speaks different gifting languages. So she's like, well, if I go over there, do I have to give the same volume?
Right.
And that's the thing is like the pressure shouldn't, not the pressure shouldn't exist, but I don't think also the recipient is always as aware of like the, not
You're
the thought
harder
that
on
we
yourself for
totally,
sure.
that's,
Yes.
you get what I'm trying to get at because it's like, I always think, well, is this enough? But as the recipient, I'm like, oh, it's so kind. But especially when you get something and then you look at reciprocity, I mean, get in a way, like get over it, right? Like it's the thought that counts and it's showing up. It's an
100%.
interesting phenomenon, like getting into this like hosting and gifting era. I think it like,
That's such a good point. You really do overthink it so much more when it's coming from you. I sent my friend on a float, obviously. She just won her country club's tennis championship, which is a
mhm,
really big deal here. Everyone's like super amazing at tennis for some
okay,
reason in Dallas. Like, I don't know what's happening, but she's
something in the
extra
water.
amazing and she
Yeah.
won. Yeah. And I sent her these stir sticks. They were just like little cocktail stir sticks. They're like, I don't know, $12 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought they were cute and I thought they were fun. And I wrote on the card, I was like, cheers, celebrating you. Can't believe you're the champ again, whatever. It was like celebratory to me.
Yeah.
And I sent him, and then as I sent them, I was like, "Well, is that like, should I send like some wine glasses too?" I'm like, "No, Sarah, it's the thought that counts. Like, you are literally, it's the same thing to me now as a text, right? But I can,
Yeah.
because I have my app here, like I can shoot that off, and it's something that's like that extra layer of thoughtful. And I know that, but I'm still like asking myself what I could have done better. Like, why?
Oh my God. This brings up the best thought for me right now, which is so people say this about parties all the time. Well, it's not a good enough party. I mean, I can't do this because I can't host well enough. I'm not going to gift because I'm not going to gift well enough. I'm thinking about this in terms of especially prior to launching Partytrick, I was asking people, and I still ask a ton: do you host? Do you not host? Why? In certain areas, like I'm sure where you are, actually, I know for a fact where you are, people host a ton.
Yeah.
But in a lot of other places, there's so much objection around it because it's like not going to be good enough, or there's not enough good enough reason, or it's not Pinterest perfect, it's not Instagram worthy. I think that doing a little thing, so send the stir sticks, have people over for pizza that you got at Whole Foods or your local like Domino's. I don't really care. Have people over. It's about the intent. Again, going back to the intentionality, celebrating the everyday, the connection that ensues, and it can be again popcorn and a movie night, and that is a party.
Yes.
I was speaking with someone, and he's like, "Oh, I have a party every day." He has a daughter. He's like, "We have pancake parties." So single dad, and I was like, just talking about Frischkorn in general, and I was like, "Well, people say they don't party." He's like, "Well, I don't understand. I party all the time." And I'm like, "Really?" And and he's like, "No, I do." And that's when he brought up the party and pancakes. And it's like, you know what? It's the attitude. And it's the celebrating the every little moment. And it doesn't need to be this big thing. Make the pancakes, send a single thing of cocktail napkins or stir sticks. That is, it's still good enough. So just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God. I think that is a really good message and something we all probably, whether you're like a doer, a type A, whatever person, everyone's in their head about that. Like
completely.
the less, and I think that there's, as I was just saying, like, no, I really want to give these thoughtful, intentional gifts. But I do also think that like that doesn't have to come with that level of pressure, right? Like
Totally.
the fact that you get something accomplished is thoughtful and intentional. Like
Yeah.
that is, I think that we do need to give ourselves more credit for having a
I
pancake
think
party.
I think also just doing something that's intentional. Again,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
so I think there's one way to like, you can look at it either way, but I think just get out, do it, send the gift, send the card, send the text as well. But, throw the party,
Yeah.
put the popcorn in. Anyhow. Okay. So fun. Can you announce yet where you guys are headed, or is that for a surprise for soon?
Well, they're all in Texas first. I will say
Okay.
that.
That's what you
So,
said. Sorry. Yes.
Texas,
Okay.
Texas, Texas. We will be kind of everywhere later this year. And I guess everywhere in Texas. But like I said, we're really excited that now what we're building can sustain organic growth. So stores everywhere can come, get on, and be a part of this amazing collection and community that we're building with the best across the country. So
I love it. Okay. So Sarah Allen, tell us, where can we find you and how can we help support you?
Oh, you're the best. You can find me at the Afloat app on
Hmm.
Instagram. I am Sarah Allen Preston
Awesome.
on Instagram. Our website is the Afloat app. You can go there, check it out. If you sign up for our mailing list and drop your zip code in there, like I was saying earlier, we're kind of tracking all of our inbound to see where we should be going. So
Love it.
either follow us on Instagram, shoot us a DM. Hey, come to
XYZ.
wherever you are.
Charlottesville.
Yeah, yep,
Yes.
yep,
Hmm.
totally. We do get a lot of Charlottesville. That's funny.
I know.
And
I'm like, well, I'm from
and
Charlottesville, so that was my assumption based on just,
okay,
yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Mhm.
And or go fill it out on our website, and that is awesome. And then if you, while we're still in our Dallas and Kansas City locations and people that you need to gift in these cities, you can still download the app. It's in the App Store, and send gifts to Dallas and Kansas City while we get everything else up and going.
I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Guys, we're going to pop everything in the show notes. So scroll down. You'll get to see and have direct links to go there. But thank you. And I look forward to seeing you in Aspen this summer.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. We have to Partytrick help us plan it.